Hello, and welcome. Coming to you from the Octagon, I'm Josh.
And I'm John, and I just finished a juicy piece of picanha, and I'm about to wash it down with this nice acai bowl.
Ooh, that sounds tasty. But this is the Geek ETC podcast, where we dive into all things you can geek out about.
So, normally we obviously have our little intro segment that we talk about things not necessarily episode related, but since what today is for me, right? So we're recording this on the 1st, and
April 1st, yep. We happen to be coming here from a great topic to dive into right off the bat.
So this week we're geeking out about
martial arts.
That's right. And so this week, today, I just finished like a 3.5-hour seminar with ADCC champion Giancarlo Bodoni, Professor Giancarlo Bodoni. He's training out of New Wave in Austin, Texas, and it was awesome.
In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
That's right. So
yes,
I guess full disclosure. So Josh and I both have a background in martial arts.
I have a little bit. You have much more than I do.
Well, sure, but so go ahead and tell them. Why don't you go ahead and tell them like what your background is?
I mean, I have about maybe really just a year's worth of actually practicing a form of karate called Karkido.
And then I come from a background, I grew up wrestling since I was in 5th grade, folk style wrestling, did that all through high school, went to state several times. And then, I'm not going to be the guy that's like, I could have gone to college. I had opportunities. I had some small college opportunities or some a little bit larger college opportunities, but I was silly at the time and didn't take them.
As were we all when we were younger.
Just dumb high school things. And then I've been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu religiously training since 2018. I had trained a few other places, and then I started training at my current gym.
Yeah, really kind of found where you fit in, and
that's right.
Where you need to be.
I've gotten every promotion underneath my professor. Which professor, if you ever hear me talking about it in this podcast, it's instead of like sensei or like I don't know what else other people. Some places masters, whatever.
Things, yeah.
We would call if you got a black belt, you just get called professor.
Yeah.
So it's a little less weebish, I guess, but they're Brazilian, so.
Hey, I mean, you teach it. You are a professor of sorts, a professor of martial arts.
That's true.
It makes sense to me.
It does. I mean, we call Master Carlos, when we bow in, like, you still bow in. And
I think all that's, there is, even in like the newer things, like all of it is founded and based in tradition from long ago.
Yeah,
all comes from some form that was practiced thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
So that's one of my biggest things I like about it too, that there's still this sense of, respect and that kind of honoring those who are, who've practiced longer than you.
And so looking at the base, like martial arts, right? What does martial mean? Military, warlike, right? Arts. So it's warlike arts, right? So in today's day and age, nobody's going to really reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Right. If you were a Greek soldier and you were trained in pancrase, right, or you wrestled in the Olympics or did whatever when you were like in, 230 BC, right, you would not coming now and learning some of this stuff, like it would not be that big of a shock to you, right? And even then, they probably had some stuff. There was definitely some things because there was, when people talk about judo, for example, a lot of basis in judo had to do with like disarming or throwing down, like when you get caught in that entanglement with another samurai or another swordsman or something to that effect, what do you do? Because in real world, right, swords can't cut through armor.
No, that's
the reason why people wear armor.
Exactly,
because swords can't cut through them.
There was a purpose.
Here's my rant hour again, right? This is you hear it one. I've said it multiple times. Swords can't cut through armor, right?
Yes.
Sometimes they can stab through things or they can find weak links.
And lightsabers don't exist yet. So,
and if you're a Mandalorian, apparently you got plot armor plus Beskar. So
that's true.
These folks back then, right, or in antiquity and going all the way into the Middle Ages, the warrior elite and those who were called upon and who fought didn't have the availability and didn't have like the availability of firearms or other long range weapons. Everything was done up close and personal.
Right.
Right.
Blades and blunt weapons for the most part.
Yes. And judo is one of those things where you could throw somebody down on the ground, put them on their back, and then you could take your smaller, like your tanto blade,
Yep.
right? And you could start jamming that into bad areas, right? You could start getting those into the weak points. You could put those in the chinks in the armor.
Right.
That's what it was about. So martial arts, people, I think there's a lot of people that say, well, it's, you know, sometimes like kung fu and those things really, they play on this like inner peace and tranquility, which is not a bad thing.
The kind of Zen aspect.
The Zen aspect, which is fine.
Yeah, that's like to the kind of, you take the extreme to that, it's like Tai Chi. It's still kind of considered a martial art, but it's all about the inner peace and the inner tranquility behind it and stuff.
And that's the thing. So, you know, Tai Chi would be considered martial art, but most people, when they think about like wrestling, folk style wrestling, Greco wrestling, freestyle wrestling, don't consider them martial art, right? Because they're seen in a more competitive environment.
Yeah, the only time you ever see that really, you know, is in, like you said, some kind of competitive, you know, collegiate sort of environment of some kind.
Until, like you said, you were at earlier, until they step into the octagon. And then it becomes a mixed martial arts. It's not mixed martial arts plus wrestling, right? And the majority of those folks, who a lot of the UFC champion, if you're not cross-training in wrestling, you're not going to do well.
No.
Because wrestling is the king of stand-up.
Right.
And, you know, judo is close behind. And then that's the best thing about Brazilian jiu-jitsu is you encompass both of those things.
Yep. Well, and that's kind of, you know, no matter what, you know, the fighting situation is, like 9 times out of 10, if you're ever in a real actual fight, it's going to end up on the ground. Yeah,
there's an entire historical repository of like archive of footage. It's called World Star Hip Hop. And it is you can go there and you can find, like, you see people getting knocked out and thrown down. You see people fighting for real. Most of the time, it's not. The people don't know what they're doing.
No, it's swinging arms, haymakers, wildly,
swinging arms,
stuff.
People not knowing what they're doing. Occasionally, you'll have some guys who have been in a lot of fights and they have their own kind of developed form of fighting. And so they're very counterpunch oriented, that kind of thing. But a lot of times, you see these organized fights where people are like, "I'm going to settle some beef with you" or whatever.
Right.
The second that they go to a ground situation or they get locked up, people will come break them up.
Yeah.
And that the reason why is because it's a beast on the ground. It's a beast when you actually go into like
the tides change once you're entangled on the ground like that, because there's only, at that point, you know, anything that you do is kind of like a domino effect of effectiveness.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, it's a domino of effectiveness in a sense that, you know, because, you know, if you go to punch somebody, you know, they aren't, you know, if they can't really recoil and fall back from it because behind them is the concrete or the ground.
Yeah.
So, you know, their head just bounces off the concrete at that point.
And vice versa. There's also, you can't hit off, you can hit people off of your back, but it's not going to be as effective.
You can't generate much power from that.
And so today I was lucky enough. So Giancarlo Bodoni, he's ADCC, which is kind of like our, I wouldn't say it's like the Olympics of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but it's like the biggest. It is one of the largest, if not the largest, like submission grappling event in the planet.
Wow.
Right? And so he won last year, or for 2022, he won the 88 kilo division there. And he is awesome. He was an awesome down-to-earth guy. He's training he's got his black belt from Lucas Lepre, who's in Charlotte, North Carolina. And he's traveled all over. He's taught all over, and he got taken. He's with John Danaher now, who's his coach, and they're in Austin, Texas, and with New Wave. So Gordon Ryan, Jiu-Jitsu Giant, and like him and some of those other guys, they're all rocking the New Wave and doing that. And it was awesome to learn from him. Super down to earth guy, pretty good at explaining things. He spoke really good English, which, I mean, he's from here, but that's one of the things a lot of the seminars that I've had with like Brazilian
natives and stuff.
Brazilian natives, sometimes it's hard. Like when you're dealing with a language, like competing, right? In some of the tournaments that I go compete at, they speak to you in Portuguese. So like if you don't know if you're not used to it, you know, and somebody's like, pero, and you're like in a death fight trying to strangle someone, right? That doesn't register with you because it's another language.
Yeah.
You're just like, it blends into like the background,
right?
You know, combate means stop, or, fight. And then pero means stop. And so like, if you're going out of bounds or something like that, they'll be like, pero. And then they get really annoyed with you when you look up at them and they're like, they've been saying it for 5 minutes or 5 seconds or whatever.
Right. Like, I don't understand.
Just, hey, give me a second, homie.
Yeah.
But it was nice because he very well, like very articulate, got into things. A lot of it was very wrestling oriented. So it was like a nice refresh for me. And then a couple really cool moves. He took a lot of time. I thought it was supposed to be just 2 hours. It was supposed to be from like 11 to 1 o'clock. And we got done at like 2:45.
Yeah.
So he took his time, he had already checked out of his hotel and has a flight to catch. So I guess he has nothing better to do, but
right. Yeah. Kill time to the flight. That's true.
So awesome time. Learned a lot from him. We had another professor in town who's one of my professor's friends. And it was fun learning from him yesterday and goofing around with him yesterday, getting roll around. And yeah, it's my favorite pastime. It's my biggest hobby. It's one of the things I geek out about.
Right. That's one of the things I like about it too, that I've heard from you many times too, and that I've heard from other people, is that particularly with BJJ too, is the willingness that some of the people who've been doing for a while, like the passion that they have in teaching other people about it. Yeah. Going and doing these seminars and sharing that information and growing it as a practice, basically.
Yeah. Well, that's like my professor. I'm a big guy and I wrestled, and that having wrestling and having like some form of grappling experience when you start out BJJ is it's definitely a boost.
Oh, for sure.
And so I remember being like a white belt and being able to do stuff to my professor who's much smaller than me. And in some martial arts you see, especially some of the traditional ones, I think there would be an ego thing there, because there's a very thin thread sometimes that runs, like holds that together. And it's this fear of this unknown thing this master or sensei could do, but they don't do it out of just whatever. Right. Or they don't spar live, or they don't do whatever. My professor's like 100 plus pounds smaller than me. And he just helps me beat him better. Right. He has no ego in it. He's not trying to and of course it's a person problem, right? People have egos. It's their thing. So it's not like you could go to a gym where there definitely could be like an egomaniac as a black belt, or a purple belt, or brown belt running the school or something like that.
I've seen and heard about that a lot in other martial arts and stuff. Yeah. Especially if you get like up to the black belt, like you get this sense of, even in, I'll just do it on a quick thing. On the school that I was going to, they have junior black belts for kids who are, have been doing it for basically most of their life at that point, but they're not, I think you have to be 16 in order to test for the adult one. And so they were under that, but they've reached, a junior black belt. And there's one of them in there that you could tell he thought he was hot stuff.
Oh yeah.
And his, I think it was his stepdad that was also in the class. And he's, somebody, like, as far as our class was concerned, he was just a blue belt, but he's had many years of training in other things like Muay Thai and stuff, and he's you could tell he's a pretty grizzled, tough individual. And so anytime they would spar, they would kind of crank it up a little bit. And one of the last times I had saw it, like the older guy, he just kind of like, he's like, "You want to go?" He's like, "I'll go." And then the kid, the junior black belt, was like, yeah, like he wanted to do it, and he got his nose bloodied. Like the other guy had good boxing skills and good head movement, dodge and everything, and he just hit him with like a left hook of a thing and completely busted his nose up and stuff and took him out.
Yeah.
So like I've seen them get humbled at the same time.
Well, and I've got lots of it, like instances of that. Well, that's one thing with like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, is like there have been some fake academies run by black belts, and there's probably some good old boy black belts or people who have bought their black belts and just kind of coasted along. But in all honesty, to like really like to compete, like if you want to compete in IBJJF, which is one of the largest affiliations to fight under, right? It's a International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation, right? To do that, like your black belt has to be on file with them, and then you have to like register, like I'm this person's student.
Right.
It's very hard to fake.
Right.
I mean, not very hard. Obviously, like the CIA or NSA could easily do it, but
right.
It's not as easy to like you know, there's a lot of people that have like, I'm sure they have printed certificates and watched a lot of YouTube.
And that's one of the things too, that in other martial arts, they can, it might be easier, again, even in sparring or things, to fake a rank. That, if you're decent at fighting in general, if you're sparring, it might be hard to tell in other things, but I feel like BJJ specifically, like when you're tangled up with somebody, it gets brought out real quick.
Very quickly.
What your skill set is and if you're any good or not.
Very quickly. And there's some people like there's like, one of the things I like about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is it's like my school, right? My academy is an international brand, right? And it's Jiu-Jitsu for everyone is the title, right? It's like their catchphrase. And there's a woman who fights out of our affiliation in Alabama. Her name's Jiu-Jitsu Grandma. She's like in her 70s. And she's going around and competing with other older ladies and getting after it. And she has the best attitude ever because she gets, I don't think I've seen her win one yet, but she still goes and does them. And she has a lot of fun doing it.
That's awesome. I love seeing those older people who are still, doing these activities and stuff that are tough, that they're hard. I mean, that's what, keeps you, I feel like things like that keep you alive in a sense.
Yeah. And she's still like a regular grandma. Like, she's not like Wild Bill. Like, she's not like out there, like on the ranch. Like she's an Alabama grandma and she seems like an absolute sweetheart. And she still posts like those old people memes where it's like, oops, I fell into some they told me to diet and or watch what I eat. And, those kind of like terrible Facebook, the things that old people share. And she'll post those sometimes, and you just love her because she's just such a sweetheart.
That's funny.
Matter of fact, she just competed like 2 weeks ago, I think, at Pan Americans at IBJJF Pan Ams and lost. Unfortunately, got second to another older lady, but it's just cute. Like I love watching it. It is one of those things, like wrestling too. When I wrestled in high school, right, I never had to fight somebody like this, but I saw it often. I've seen people compete high level and be good, deaf, blind. Missing legs, missing limbs. Right? Oh,
yeah. I saw some video, I think it might have been on some Rogan episode that they were talking about a guy that did jiu-jitsu, but it only had like, it was a torso.
No, he wrestles.
He wrestled. It's a wrestle thing.
He wrestled like in college. Like he wrestled, like he was a great wrestler and he was.
And it was like, they were talking about how tough it was because there's half the moves you can't put on him. Because he doesn't have any legs to tangle up or anything.
Oh yeah, and he's already a jacked dude, and like he's training. He's on his hands obviously because that's what he uses to move around. Yeah, and he's like able to squat down with his arms and like just like jump like the height of a normal person. It
was a wild video. It's crazy.
Yeah, I've seen him get a hold of some people, and it's not fun for them.
No,
but, I mean that's one of the great things about grappling sports is. When you get a hold of another person, like, it's the great equalizer sometimes. Like I've seen small women, I've seen small guys, humble big dudes.
It's one of those things that there definitely can be a scale that balances itself when, there's always a scale in any martial arts, I feel like, with just kind of strength and technique. That if you have enough of one, you don't need as much of the other. But that's a thing that if you have, more of one, that it can balance out basically. And if you're lucky enough that you are someone who's real strong, and big, and you've got weight behind you and technique, then you're pretty formidable. But you can take somebody who's small and maybe not very strong, but they've got like a master level technique, and they'll still wrap you up like nothing.
I have a buddy that trains with me. He's a big jack guy, right? He played college. He played linebacker in college, inside linebacker, in D2, right? So he was a D2 linebacker, and
I don't know what that means.
Division II, like okay. So like he played at like one of the local universities, right? Yeah. I mean, it's still college football, right? Like, it's no joke. He probably could have played at like a higher level. He probably could have played at like D1. He could have played at somewhere like Georgia or Alabama, but he wound up where he was at.
Okay.
Anyways, big guy, jacked, very strong, like still like naturally strong, lifts all the time. And he'd been training for a little bit, and he was rolling with a smaller guy at our school who's about one, so my buddy is like 6'1", 230, right? And all muscle.
Yeah.
And he was fighting another guy, and the other guy was, and another team member. So this was just sparring, and it was after practice. Like it was after we had already drilled our stuff, and they were just getting some extra rounds in. and he was fighting this guy, and this guy's 5'5", 145.
Wow.
But he's a purple belt.
Right.
Right. And my buddies just started training. And so my buddy, this little dude's crawling all over him, you know, and every time he puts his weight somewhere, he's slipping out of it. And, you know, he wound up choking him twice, making him tap. And my buddy was so frustrated.
Yeah.
He was so frustrated because of how big and strong he was. And he's been training a little bit, you know, he's been training for like 4 or 5 months. He's still a white belt.
And that's one of those things too, that with some people like that, you know, if you're fortunate enough to have, you know, good genetics, that you're able to build muscle and get big and bulky and stuff, that, you know, through most of your life, you know, a lot of things like that, you know, you're not as worried about, you know, either confrontations or just being able to do things physically that, you know, smaller people would.
Sure.
You know, you don't encounter as much resistance in life to things that would require strength. And so I can understand how definitely, you know, that could be frustrating to come across a situation that normally, yeah, like I'm big and strong, I should be able to handle this. And then you're just shut down.
Well, and that's the thing. So, you know, he was so angry about it. Well, not angry, but he was just very frustrated. Like, he was very frustrated. I could tell that he was taking it in a way that wasn't positive for his jiu-jitsu journey. And I told him, I was like, hey, buddy, like, if he's a purple belt, if he couldn't do that to you, the sport's BS and you should be doing something else. Right. Because it worked on you, right? That's the whole point of it. That's the reason that shows. So now when you're a purple belt and you're your size,
exactly,
right? Think about what you can do. That's the whole point of it. That's the whole progression of it. Like, he's been training for that long. He should be able to do that to you, right? And the fact that he can means that you're training in a legitimate thing where people can just...
That's something to get excited about.
Yeah. I can, you know, anybody that wants to come in to the gym, they take their shoes off, they get on the mat, and I say, all you have to do is say, we're not going to be punching or kicking, right? But you can try to do whatever else you want to do, right? And then that's the open, you know,
no punching, kicking, or biting.
No punching, kicking, or biting. Yeah. And that's what's so cool about jiu-jitsu. Like, back in the day, like the Brazilians, like the Gracie family, right?
Yeah.
There was like the Gracie challenge where these random people would come in, or they would dojo storm and they would fight the Gracies, and they would strike, where they would come in and you would see them, like they would do like a front kick, do a double leg takedown, take him down to the ground and start choking him out.
Yeah, and lock him up.
Lock him up, triangle, arm bar, whatever. And we still see it sometimes. Like now, we've not had anybody quote unquote dojo storm us before, but I've seen some, like, I saw a video this week of a guy who came off the street and was like, they were cleaning up the mats after practice, and the guy's like, I can take you out. The guy's like, man, I'm trying to clean up, go away. Like, if you want to come back for a session, come back. And the guy kept on, and so he, you know, it's the surveillance camera of him just arm barring this dude left and right. Yeah. And just goofing off. And, like, it makes believers out of people. And a lot of times they don't come back because they don't have that. They thought they were a tough person. Humiliated. And they realized, and honestly, they might have been a tough person at their level, but they got humiliated by somebody that was good. And they're like, well, I can't, I would rather be really good in my head than actually good. So I want to keep
up this false self-image that I have.
Yes.
Instead of be confronted with reality.
Yeah.
Essentially.
So,
and that's something now too that I've heard talk about many times, is because of the prevalence and the widespread, or as widespread as BJJ's got in the past number of years too, which is awesome, is, you know, nowadays you don't know who could be practicing it. You know, if you're going to be, you know, some hotshot out on the street trying to pick fights with people, I feel like the tides have kind of changed, and people are you got to kind of question that a little bit, because, like, yeah, you don't know who's like a purple belt or a brown belt, and
even a blue belt or a white belt.
Any amount. If you have any amount of jiu-jitsu stuff, then there's a good chance you're going to have an advantage over somebody.
Yeah, you're going to have an advantage, especially if you get into, like, as soon as you get into close quarters and there's a lockup. Well, you know, even wrestlers. I mean, every high school has wrestling, just about in like every high school in the United States has wrestling, right? Some people like me, I grew up in Kansas, so I joined a club wrestling team when I was like in 5th grade. Then I wrestled in middle school, then I wrestled in high school, here and there. Well, no, just here in high school. And there's a video of, like, you know, once again, the online repository, the historical archives of people doing stupid stuff. of like, it was an Oklahoma State football player and another guy. And they definitely seemed to be instigating it in the bathroom with these two smaller guys.
Mm.
Well, they were both wrestlers. And not just wrestlers. Guys? They were both wrestlers and BJJ guys.
The smaller guys.
The smaller guys.
Yeah.
And this dude, I mean, this guy's an Oklahoma State football player. So if you've never been around somebody that's played college football, like I'm only 5'10", right?
Right.
I was a good football player. But there are levels to this, right? One of the guys I train with is 6'7", played for Clemson.
Right.
They're like a different type of person.
Yeah.
They're
kind of half giant.
They are. They really are like a different type of sapien, right? Yeah. They look different. If people see Tom Brady on screen, like, well, he's a little dude. Go stand next to
chimps versus gorillas.
Go stand next to Tom Brady. You know what I'm saying? Tom Brady might be small on the field compared to those other people.
Yeah, that's the thing. The other people are scary.
Huge. They are huge. It's just like a different type of bulk, you know?
Yeah.
But these kids, right? They were all kids, right? So, you know, definitely the other two smaller guys probably could have walked away. They were all in a bathroom at a club or whatever.
Yeah.
But the big guys were definitely pushing. It's classic Karate Kid type of like,
right.
You know, what are you going to do? And the biggest, like one of the there was one, I think only one of them was a Oklahoma State football player, and the other one was just a big guy.
Yeah.
And the little dude clocked him, broke his orbital bone, knocked him to the ground, and strangled him.
Wow.
On a bathroom floor.
Yeah.
And his buddy was doing the same thing. And they beat that dude. They beat that dude good. And then that guy was upset because of like the broken bones, obviously. And he got in trouble and everything. And he was saying, I didn't do anything. And he tried to press charges and sue them and all kinds of stuff, which is an issue, which, I mean, could happen, right? I mean, suing people is pretty easy.
Which is why, of course, you know, we obviously don't recommend getting in any fights and street fights, and your first option should be leave the area.
Yeah, conflict. You know? I mean, you can avoid conflict for the most part, but if you can't, or if you need to, violence is there's a reason why every country has a military force, because violence is a problem.
There's a point where,
just like Dungeons and Dragons, like you can roll, maybe you roll a natural one on your charisma check, baby, you might have to throw some hands.
Yeah, like there's a point in any situation where, obviously, you know, exfiltrate would be the first, you know, probably the best and most, you know, welcome option, but in reality, in real life, sometimes life won't let you do that, and
it won't.
And it's good to have a skill set to, you know, give you an advantage.
And this guy, I think everybody dogged on him so hard that I don't think a lot of stuff came of it. I think they didn't I don't think the sheriff's office pressed charges or anything on that dude's behalf, because the video came out. You know, it was just cell phone footage. But
right,
I mean, that dude got clobbered, and he's a bit. They weren't like small dudes. They were probably like 180.
Okay. Like
180 pounds.
Bigger than me.
But way smaller than this dude who's like probably 6'4", 255, 260. And then like, you know, if you guys aren't familiar with like American football, right? We have some listeners who are from out of country.
Yeah.
When you go to a Division I, like big school, like university, like Kansas or Oklahoma, Alabama, Tennessee, Michigan, when you go to one of those big name schools, right? And that is like your career. That is your job. Like all they do is lift weights and train.
That's your empty time. Your pastime is just getting big.
It's their job. They have to do. And their coaches, like, I mean, Nick Saban, the Alabama coach, makes like, you know, $35 million a year or something.
That's all? Shoot.
Something crazy like that, right? They have a vested interest in you better be the biggest, the strongest, the fastest. That's what the whole point is, right? It is the college football. Like I tried out for like the Shrine Bowl, which is like a North Carolina versus South Carolina thing, and mainly just because like everybody else on my team was doing it. And when you go and there's all those college coaches and they're watching everything, like they are very picky about what they get. You know,
right.
There's no, for example, I mean, I'm a junior in high school, and the 40-yard dash, right, is one of the combine things you have to do. So you run 40 yards. It's a 40-yard sprint.
Right.
High school, it's not like there's a dude standing there with a stopwatch. They have lasers and they're measuring you Not at the
Jeez.
body part that hits. They're measuring you at the hip when you cross the line.
Yeah.
Right. And we had a really fast guy around here who was a really big prospect, and he ran something like a 4.23, which is extremely fast, like how NFL level fast. But then he bad grades and bad decisions, and
Yeah, that's a shame.
it is. But you know that there's a lot of dudes out here who are state champions who just go work, you know, roofing afterwards,
Right.
or wrestlers, and you get tangled up with them, and man, it wouldn't be a good time.
No, not at
You
all.
know? So here's one thing I want to bring up. This is just a little thought that I have when I'm driving down the road.
Okay.
When somebody's going too fast, right? And, you know, sometimes we're going fast and people are going too slow, right? And like when we're driving down the road,
Right.
we're like, go faster, right? And vice versa. You know, whenever,
Right.
but we always seem to get almost more angry when we're not rushed for time and somebody behind us
It's
is
pushing us down the road.
pushing
Yeah.
us down the road. Get over to the slow lane. Let them go on the fast lane.
Well-
And I always imagine, rather than getting angry if they cut me off or whatever, right? Unless they're driving like so badly that maybe they're impaired on something, or there's some reason why like maybe law enforcement should get involved. I always like to think maybe that person's about to poop their pants.
Yes.
And I go from anger to empathy every single time. Like,
Right.
good luck. I'm like, that guy's just trying to get home.
Yeah.
So
We've all been there.
We've all been there. We've all been there. You ate at the wrong Indian place. You ate at the wrong Chinese place.
Yeah.
You went to.
You had some pizza that was too much spice in the sauce or something.
You went to Applebee's, right?
Period.
Guaranteed.
Just
Get a
Applebee's.
quesadilla burger. So you go
Yes.
there. Boy, the 2000s were a rough time.
Yeah.
You go there. Just remember this: like, instead of road rage and getting out of your car and then like getting in a fight that you probably would have,
And ending up on World Star.
World Star Hip Hop, and
Yeah.
somebody pulling out a gun, somebody pulling out a bat, somebody pulling out a 2x4, you getting
Yeah.
clocked in the head and falling down and hitting your head, or your car getting rammed. Just take the ego out of it and say, "Oh, that guy's about to poop his pants."
Yeah.
Right? Oh,
One thing that's always
I'm getting
helped.
out of the way, buddy. You go, hey, I hope you make it.
Yeah.
You know,
One thing that's always helped me, and I don't really have any road rage at all because of it and stuff, but years and years ago, it was kind of there was a perspective shift. I don't remember where I heard it or who told it to me that oftentimes, you know, in drivers that are, you know, different things as we're growing up, we're told that, yeah, there's a fast lane and a slow lane.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what most of society know it as. But it was at some point described to me as, you know, there's just the driving lane that you are in and the passing lane. It's not a fast lane, a slow lane. It's just your driving lane and a passing lane. So if you're just cruising, you just stay in the right-hand lane. Here in America, at least, it's in the right-hand lane, and you only get into the left one if you need to pass somebody, and then you get back in the right-hand lane. And so, and in that case, if there is anybody who's moving down the road, they're going to just be in the right lane passing everybody.
Yeah.
And so anytime I drive anywhere, I typically drive, you know, in the right lane until I need to pass somebody, and I'll go pass around them and get back in the lane. And that leaves
Yeah.
it open for anybody who's impatient or they got to poop real bad.
Novel concept, you know, but
And-
some places it's not applicable. Like, I mean, that is perfect. That's a perfect example. Obviously, if you're one of our listeners in Atlanta, Georgia, and it's like a 12,
Right.
it's like a 12 lane highway, I'm like, you're not going to get in the right lane.
No.
Right? But everybody else,
Good luck.
everybody just knows road rage is just a part of your culture, and just it's going to be bad. Like, you know,
Yeah.
like it's just going to be bad. Like, I took my little 99 Tacoma to Atlanta to fight one time. And, you know, it's a 4-cylinder two-wheel drive, like single cab, and I'm
Yeah.
a big boy. And everybody's passing me going mock Jesus, and I'm like, oh, you know, they're
trying.
shaking the car, they're shaking my truck.
Yeah.
I'm the little bitty dude out there now, and it was
Yeah.
not fun. So that's just a little John
Little
wisdom.
life advice.
Little
Yeah.
life advice. When you see somebody and they're having a rough time driving down the interstate or whatever,
Give them the benefit of the doubt
give them the benefit of the doubt,
because you don't know.
because they could be turtling and they could be about to crap their pants.
Jesus.
I think that's where I go to, and it is an instant empathy builder for me, because I've been there before. Where like, oh, I hope like, you're sweating and you got to get
Yep.
there. That's the thing. That's what's up.
Indeed.
So martial arts as a like warfare thing,
Oh, okay.
right? We have pancrase, right, which is kind of Greek, pancration, Greek
I was gonna
stuff.
say, I've heard of that one. I'm not super familiar with it, but I've heard the term.
It's like the one. It's very Sambo-esque where they have like, I think a lot of times they have like a gi top and then like shorts, and then they strike and there's throws and chokes and stuff.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, there's a famous video. We talked about like fake black belts earlier, and this guy was probably not a fake black belt, but he was like a woo-woo guy, right? He thought he could knock people out with his mind.
Yeah, you got the death touch stuff, or like the energy manipulation things.
And I guess the cult of personality, he had just convinced himself that he could actually, like, so there was like an open challenge, you know, because he had like knocked out 6,000 people or something silly like that, you know, with his no-touch knockout. This is like a Korean guy, I think, or I think it was a Korean dude, because I think the guy he fought was Korean. Maybe they might have been Thai. They might have been Chinese or something like that. I don't know. That sounds bad when I say it, but I'm trying to think because there's been a couple. There's a Chinese practitioner.
I've seen a few different videos of this same thing happening too. So.
Well, there's a guy. There's a Chinese practitioner who's a BJJ guy, or he fights more MMA, right? And he's been fighting a lot of the Kung Fu Tai Chi guys over there. Because they have this like cult of personality, and the Tai Chi is like their national martial art or whatever, and so there's like a lot of respect and things towards it. And then he goes out there and kicks them in the ribs, kicks them in the legs, punches them in the face, picks them up, slams them on the ground, chokes them unconscious, you know. And they're like, "You're making our sport look bad." I think he even got in trouble. Like the Chinese, like the Communist Party came and were like, "Hey, you have to apologize on camera." And I think he refused to do it and got in trouble.
In that specific term, they're making their martial art look bad because it isn't working.
Yeah.
You know, it's put to the test and it didn't work. So you're kind of making your own stuff look bad. And
so this other case, I want to say, I don't remember where it was at. So we'll ignore that. But this guy was like the woo-woo guy, knock you out with one touch. You know, they've got they're showing the frames of him like flipping people with not even touching them or whatever.
Right.
And then he fights this dude, and this dude's like wearing a gi top with shorts, and he's got gloves on. No, he didn't think he had gloves on. And the woo-woo guy takes like a overt, like, you know, like the classic Kung Fu Panda fighting stance, right? You know, palms, like, you know, crane style or some silly goose thing.
Like a Mortal Kombat kind of thing or something.
Yeah, like, you know, like a definite like Kung Fu, like my hands are moving this way, like Ip Man thing. And the Pancrase dude, he comes in and he does like some wide cylindrical movements towards the Pancrase guy, and the Pancrase guy just punches him right in the nose. And the dude steps back and he holds his nose and he's like looking at his blood, and he's so confused. Like, I feel like he's built this own thing around him. And then he fights the dude again. Like, he comes back in, and the Pancrase guy winds up like hitting him. The woo guy dips forward at the belly, and then the Pancrase guy does like a kick right to the dude's face. Yep. And it's just, it's over, and everybody's like, whoa, 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 whoa. But that dude decided to fight. Like, that guy was in it. That guy chose to be there and participate in the fight.
He wanted to do it.
That's on him. It's like there's a video of like a little Aikido guy. He's like, this is an American dude. And he's like,
Steven Seagal. No, I'm just kidding.
Don't get me started. But he's got like a Pancrase, he's got like a ponytail.
Steven Seagal.
Every time I see Steven Seagal now, he's got a bandana on his head.
Oh yeah, that's been a thing. Yeah,
but he goes to this gym and he's fighting some Chuck Liddell looking Brazilian jiu-jitsu dude, like some jack dude, and he wants to fight him. And so he comes in, you know, and those that don't know, Aikido oftentimes is like it's very movement based, and a lot of the woo-woo guys who go a little bit out overboard seem to be Aikido or Kung Fu-esque. You don't see as much with karate.
And one of the problems with that I'll just mention is too that in their schools and stuff, that so many of the students want to believe that so hard too that they will go along and, you know, again, falsely believe and just go along with it. You know, if they do their no-touch flip, then the guys will go with it.
Yes.
And that kind of, you know, is building both of the person's, you know, belief in their head that it works.
Yes.
And after many years of this, they both believe it works and that it can be a thing. And so that will just compoundly domino to the point where, yeah, you've convinced, yeah, I mean, all my students, it works on all my students, the hundreds of people I've had come through my school. So of course it works, and
Yeah.
you're going to believe that.
Yeah. Well, this Aikido kid, he goes in there, he's like a 30-year-old something, and he goes in there and he does his like whole like thing, and he starts sidestepping. And this Chuck Liddell looking dude, big white guy, bald head, slaps him in the slaps him right here, hits him another time, and he's like, whoa, 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 like he does like a timeout and like holds his head because he's never been hit before. Nobody's ever slapped him or punched him very hard in the head. And then they go one more time, and then he just I think he picks him up and throws him on the ground, and the guy is like, I'm done.
Yeah,
he's legitimately injured, but he thought he could go in there. I mean, he went to the MMA person's school. They didn't come to the Aikido school, right?
Right.
And that's typically what you see is like the people who come in are typically the woo-woo people come to the other person's gym.
Yeah.
I've never once thought to myself, you know what? I should go into the local Taekwondo school and heel hook everybody.
Right.
I've never once thought that.
Well, no.
Because I don't care. They can do whatever they want to do. If they want to come in here, I'll heel hook them. You know what I'm saying? I'll rip their ACL apart. But that's the funny thing is like, it's typically those folks. The Boss Rutan story back in the day. Have you ever heard that one?
I've heard of Boss Rutan. I feel like I've heard the story, but I don't.
Well, do you remember he was actually in Grand Theft Auto 4?
Yes, that's where I first heard about him.
Oh, that's funny. So he tells a story, and I've heard it told a couple places. I think he told it on Rogan. I think he told it a couple other places. Boss Rutan was a pride fighter. He did a lot of, he's a pancrase guy. Like, that's his background. And, he was really famous because he would always, palm heel strike everybody. He wasn't really big on closed fist because he most of the time fought without gloves. So he was teaching, a grappling class in Holland. He's from the Netherlands. So he's in Holland or whatever, and he's teaching this grappling class. And he said, there was, this ninjutsu school or something like that, right? And, he's, this chubby guy, and he had, this cadre of, women followers, and he talked about, this guy was, super fat and, had this cult of personality. And he talked about, every time he would show a move, they'd be, whispering to each other. Saying, oh, if you did that, we would do that. Or you do that, we would do this. Or you do this, we would do that. And so then he invited one of the women up there. He put them in a rear naked choke. He asked her, he said, what did you say? She's like, well, if you do that to us, we would poke you in the eyes. He's like, okay. So he has her sit down in front of him. He takes her back, puts the rear naked check in. And he's like, in 3 seconds, I'm going to start. If you touch he's like, in 3 seconds, I'm going to try to choke you. If you touch my eyes, I'm going to break your neck. She's like, what are you saying? And he's like, if you touch my eyes, I'm going to break I'm not going to just let go of you because you touched me in the eyes. I'm going to go. And he makes this hilarious, the way he breaks the person's neck. He pretends he's breaking somebody's neck. He's like, I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to grab my eye. He's like, you never mess with somebody that's in a dominant position. What are you going to do? If you get in a rear naked choke and somebody's got it locked in, I don't care how big you are. You're donezo. If legitimately,
unless there is something that would instantly shut someone's system down,
like EMP pulse, if it was a robot,
or like a bullet to the head or something.
Bullet, yeah. John Wick comes in.
Exactly.
See episode 11.
Exactly. Outside of something like that, it had to be some real extreme amount of pain to shut down that neural system to prevent them from just following through with the move that they're doing.
And I think the 90s that's what happened is you got this whole karate, taekwondo, and people would be teaching pressure points and stuff.
So much stuff was fueled by Hollywood.
It was, and so you'd have all these pressure points and all these different little things, and people would you could just go up to your buddy on the street because somebody else showed you who's a black belt, who's a Green Beret, who's a Navy SEAL, who's a blah 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 blah, right? Yeah. And then they would just shove something in a painful portion of your body, and they'd be like, "That's karate, homie. That's pressure points. I do that, and I knock you out. I hit you liver punch. If I hit you in liver 4, you're done."
Yeah.
Right. And you're like, "Oh wow, man, that did hurt."
Yeah.
But that would be just me going around, and grabbing you and pinching you really hard. Right. I learned that at jiu-jitsu. You didn't like that, did you?
Yeah. That
come to jiu-jitsu. I'll teach you how to pinch people.
Pinch everything. I can step on your toe.
I do step on people's toes all the time.
That's true. That's one thing too about jujitsu. You mentioned that Boss Rutan thing is most of the stuff you do in that, any of the techniques you do put people into a position where it's a submission position type of thing where you can disable somebody and, you know, give them the opportunity to give up or whatever. But almost every one of those positions that you have locked in can be taken to the next level and turned up to 11 and cause extreme, you know, bodily injury.
Oh, yeah. If you want to, there are compilations of people's shoulders and arms and legs getting ripped out of socket and broken.
Right.
Because they didn't tap in a competition.
Exactly.
And like a lot of times it'll be like, instead of not safe for work, NSFW, it'll be like NSFL, like not safe for life. Because you'll see somebody and they won't tap, especially like MMA or something, and they'll have them like in a Kimura. And next thing you know,
there's a bone.
Yeah. Yep.
Hey, look at that. It's sticking out.
That is a compound fracture, friend. That is.
I can't watch any of those videos. I've never been able to. You've tried showing me a few sometimes. The couple times where I've accidentally seen a video where someone's leg just goes 90 degrees or something, then yeah, like I'm immediately out. I can't even, no.
Well, and I think part of it is because we've seen people, like most of the time if somebody breaks their arm or breaks their leg in TV, it's not realistic.
Right.
And we've seen people shoot themselves in the head or get shot in the head on TV or movies. It's dulled us to that. And we also can't imagine what that's like.
Right.
You know, we can't imagine, I bet that burns, you know, because it doesn't. We instantly, they're dead. They don't have any feeling now.
Yeah.
But when somebody breaks their leg, you're like, I know what that would feel like. That I bet I could understand.
You can kind of sympathize a little bit.
Yeah, you get that kind of thing going on. Yeah.
For sure. But yes, speaking of which, that, I mean, one of my biggest fascinations with martial arts has been in media, in movies and TV shows, video games, all that kind of stuff. That was where a lot of my fascination grew and built as a child, you know, and started. And those are typically some of my more favorite things to watch because, you know, even though a lot of it is not realistic and stuff, it is very entertaining to me, at least. Watching things like Mortal Kombat, or when I was a kid, you know, the Power Rangers and all that kind of stuff.
Beautiful, yeah.
And, you know, all that type of stuff is a lot of my preferred things to watch, just because it is very, you know, fun to watch someone be able to, you know, pull out some Krav Maga things, like the Jason Bourne stuff or whatever, and to just beat up 3 or 4 guys, you know, without much effort. Or like even those Ip Man movies with Donnie Yen, those are some of my favorite movies because of the choreography in the stuff. You know, some of it is very unrealistic. Likewise, another series, the Ong Bak series with Tony Jaa, they were based out in Thailand. So there's it's all Muay Thai based. A lot of the stuff in there, some of the stuff in there would definitely work and be effective, but a lot.
Muay Thai is a very legitimate martial art.
Oh, for sure. It's one of the deadliest too, because it's like no holds barred, a lot of that stuff. They're swinging every limb they have. Yeah,
there's like a little dude named Rod Tang. Have you ever seen him? He fights in Bellator or ONE FC, one of the two. And he's like a little Thai guy. And people are always trying to he's one of those dudes, like you see the videos where people are like cocky and they take blows to the head and they actually get knocked out, right? You know, instead, like they're like, hit me in the face, and they get punched in the face and they get knocked out in competition. This dude just eats them for breakfast. He's like 140 pounds of just pure steel.
Yeah.
And
it's so many of them, of so much of their martial art practice is conditioning to just kicking a tree, you know, 10,000 times in a day, or punching, you know, bags of rice or in rocks or whatever it is, that their bodies are so hard.
Well, and hitting each other. That's another thing.
They'll trade kicks into the shins and stuff, or into like the forearms, and they'll kick back and forth all day. That they've got so many microfractures in their bones that have healed back up and built up all that calcium and all that stuff to just get hard as rocks. And yeah, if you get kicked by a professional Muay Thai artist like that, it's getting hit with a baseball bat.
Well, there's a video of there's a guy in South Carolina. He's a UFC fighter. I don't think he's really fighting anymore. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and he owns Pitch Black. I think Pitch Black Martial Arts. I fought one of his guys before, tapped him out. There's a video of him kicking a dude who, like, a guy comes in. He's like a big jack guy. He's like, I want you to kick me in the thigh. You know, like Stephen Wonderboy Thompson has a big, like, a karate background and Muay Thai background. Yeah, he's a very good kickboxer, and he's he hits this dude like 2 or 3 times, and then he gives him like a 100%. And that dude's, I mean, big muscled thigh is just horrible looking.
Yeah. It'll take you down. Like I said, it's getting hit by like a professional, like MLB slugger with a baseball bat.
Well, it's even worse. Like now that people are doing calf kicks, where they're kicking on the inner, like they're hitting you in your tibial nerve, and that just shuts your whole leg
That's saying,
down.
Yeah, your whole leg goes numb, and you're just gonna fall.
Yeah, and you can get permanent damage from that too. You know, like calf slicers. I used to use calf slicers. One of the guys that coached for a rival high school, but I knew, he was a coach in the school. I remember him showing me how to like calf slice somebody in wrestling, in like a referee's position, and I would use it. And he's like, hey, just don't do it because you can cause permanent nerve damage. And you sure can. Like, if you put all your pressure into somebody's tibial nerve in their calf. I mean, we just talked about pressure points being silly, but this one was not fun.
No. And I've seen you, I remember back in high school, like, I don't remember really why, if it's just, you know, you were one of my few friends that I had, so I'd come hang out with you at practices or something, but I've seen you put, like, your knee in the people's calves and stuff, and they were down on the ground, and just see them instantly come unglued.
Oh, yeah. I don't care.
And you're like, yeah, that's one of my favorite ones to do with the kids that you're coaching.
Oh, yeah. When I was coaching wrestling.
You're coaching the wrestling, the younger kids and stuff. You're like, yeah, that's one of my favorites because you just kind of lean on it a little bit, and they're like, ah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah. I was a bad boy wrestling coach. I was like a child. You know, I just graduated high school, and I was like, I'll help coach the middle school team because I didn't, you know, go anywhere to wrestle in college. And you know, those poor kids had to deal with me. It was a fun time though. We won conference every year. It was a good like learning experience for me, but I was definitely like a child, and looking back on that now, there's like a lot of like cringe moments where I was, you know, like now that I coach and teach other things a little bit like better, like my like how I taught people things could have been a lot better.
Well, we all grow with time.
Of course, yeah. So, but it was fun. You know, I was always very nice to them. You know, that was one of my big things was I always, you know, I was always nice to my kids on or off the mat. You know, if they lost.
Remember you telling me multiple times of literally just helping, like kind of coaching them on non-wrestling things about situations they were dealing with outside of school.
Yeah.
You know, they're just dealing with life stuff, and you like help them out with things.
Which I wasn't necessarily qualified to do that, but it is, I mean, I was young enough to where I think maybe they took it to heart, you know, sometimes.
Yeah.
And some of that was just like, you know, especially when you're a kid and you're in love, and oh my God, it's the worst, you know, and you know how that goes with me. And I was like, hey man, maybe, you know, like this high school relationship or this middle school relationship's probably not gonna last forever.
No,
you know, like
don't get too bent over.
You're gonna look back on this real silly. That was one of the worst things. Is I had like female wrestling managers at middle school, and then the kids are always just looking to get away with them somewhere.
Right.
Like they're both, and so it was like I sent them to go get water bottle, and then I have to like go hunt them down. Like get out of here, get out of the locker room.
Yeah.
Like I'm not letting you kids get up to no funny business with me. Ugh.
Children.
What's you know, one of the other things I like, and it's not popular here necessarily, but I'm starting to see it come alive in a couple different variations, is HEMA.
Nah, I've never heard
Historical
of that.
European martial arts.
Oh.
And it's legitimate because they're using swords.
Oh, they're the ones that just recreating the old styles on how to
so there's two different ones. So there's like two different ones. There's like the Battle of Nations or whatever, something like that. And that's the one where you see that a lot of guys, and they're typically wearing like Eastern European armor, and they're just beating each other senseless.
Yeah.
In like a box.
Right.
With they got swords. I saw one, the guy's in full armor. He does like a little, it's not like a real fancy throw, but he does like a little judo hip toss.
Yeah.
In armor, just like we talked about earlier. Throws the guy to the ground, and he just starts taking a shield and beating him in the stomach, and then he does a stomp on him and knocks the dude's the wind out of the guy.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Oh! And then the match is over.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then there's people that are utilizing more fencing equipment, and they have like, you know, dull weapons or like plastic weapon, like, you know, not plastic, but what's like a
polymer type of thing,
a polymer weapon, like, you know, and they just train these different arts, and it's so cool to see how these guys, like what they use and the different techniques. They're looking at old treatises.
That's what I was gonna say. Is there's a school that I've seen in some things on YouTube that's down in Austin, Texas, that the Historical Weapons Guild, I think is what it's called, that they have classes and they teach yeah, like how to use like any kind of like old like medieval weapon you could think of. They like teach how to use them, and they get all their stuff. They like have tons of source material from like
Yeah.
way back then, like manuscripts and old books that have the diagrams, and they've like all studied all those things with like.
That's what I use for some of
Yeah.
the Dungeons and Dragons handouts. For
Right.
you guys are old medieval treatises.
Exactly.
And it's the monkey butt one is one of them. It's one of the ones I found.
Jeez.
Yeah. But it's so cool watching them fight, because like the spear is not sexy, right? The spear is not a sexy weapon to use. You stab it.
Yeah.
You stab it forwards.
Yep.
Right?
In and out.
In and out. And it is the most effective way, because like there's a lot of those videos where they'll come in and usually they go to first hit, right? So they'll as soon as they get hit, and the fact that they can keep somebody at bay.
That's what I say. One of the biggest things back then was distance.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you had longer reach than your opponent, you would win.
Yep. And that's the thing. They're just thrusting in and out, like high, low, middle.
Yeah.
And these people try to come in with light. Like if you've got a sword, you're done.
Yeah.
There's a reason why swords were considered sidearms. Like a
Yep.
pistol in the United States military, right, is a sidearm. It's not what
Yeah.
people are like.
It's not a primary weapon.
Yeah, it's not the gun. You don't take a pistol into like a war zone to go fight somebody, right? There's no point.
Exactly.
You're not. It's pointless. So it's the rifle of that time was the spear or bill or halberd
or
some
pike,
type of
pike or
pole
something
weapon.
like that. Yeah.
Some type of pole weapon. And so, but when I watch the guys go at it with sabers, that's when it gets sexy.
Yeah.
That's when it gets sexy, but it's not. It seems like Polish saber fighting, that kind of thing. They seem to have like this really neat style. I think there was a movie. I think it was Ridley Scott's first movie, and I can't remember who it had, but it was who the main star was of it. But because he was a decently large actor, and Ridley Scott was the duelist, and he was a Napoleonic cavalry officer, and he had like a rivalry with another cavalry officer. And it's a pretty good movie because you see like these like really good kind of sword. It wasn't very. They were quick. They were over fast.
Yeah.
There was a lot of tension, a lot of build up. There was a lot of like, kind of in and out. But it wasn't this long
testing
drawn out.
each other kind of thing.
It wasn't this long drawn out, or swords or hitting swords. It was like parry, cut, and that's a really good one. And they do those kind of things, and I really find that there's a game called Hellish Court, I think. And that's what it is. It's like a very realistic fencing game. And some of them have rapiers, some of them have long swords, some of them have like curved swords, and it's quick, it's over fast, but there's some videos of it where they're parry, cut dude's hand off,
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's funny.
So if you guys are looking for something like that, if you guys came to this episode, I wonder if you'll give us like a recommendation for like a really good like historical European martial arts game where I can fence.
Specifically.
Hellish Court is what I would say.
There you go. Look it up.
There you go. So one of the things that we talked about earlier is like Tai Chi was considered a martial art.
Yeah.
And I want to argue that like anything that can't be used to hurt somebody or is not effective at hurting somebody is not. We got to get away from calling things martial arts. And some things like well, it's self-defense, right? Like, well, self-defense. Sometimes self-defense, especially, I think even still, we see it with with old Dust, right? Detroit Urban Survival.
Oh, goodness gracious. That's somebody that I keep blocking out of my mind as a thing, and then I'll see it on YouTube. And
he lives in my mind constantly.
Yeah.
He's a goober. And
so much of that stuff will get you killed.
Well, so first, anytime you fight back, that's not a bad thing, right?
No.
Because you never know what will happen. But the things he teaches are silly. They're not real things. And he's like, there was a Vice documentary on him before all of this TikTok stuff kicked off.
Really?
And he was trying to start a private police force in Detroit. And it looked like somebody like this, and props to him that he's somehow spent the money. he called them, they were like the Viper unit, but it was like an anagram for something. Like
Yeah,
it was
of course.
like, it was like a, VIP, with a period after each one.
Yeah.
The Viper unit, and they had like a Hummer, like a actual Humvee, and then they had people on like sport bikes, like crotch rockets, like it was, and they've all got like the black uniforms on. It was like a Hollywoodized thing that he liked and is trying to do, and somehow has gotten away with it. I don't know how he has the money or how he gets the loans for it, but they're like, oh, my Viper unit responds, and like Vice had a whole thing on it with him. So when I started seeing him with the TikTok videos, I was like, that's the nerd from that thing. That's who that guy is,
Right.
But yeah, he teaches those kids, and he teaches like people that, and I think when people say when people think like jiu-jitsu, boxing, Muay Thai, they think, oh, sport stuff.
Hmm.
I've used wrestling many times in interpersonal conflict that resulted in violence before I started training Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And guess what? It works just fine.
Yeah.
And just like those guys with that dude from Oklahoma State, it doesn't matter. Like,
yeah,
if you're used to it, it's the same type of thing. Like getting hit in the face in wrestling is a common thing. There's no punching or strikes in wrestling, right?
But there's a lot of fast movements.
There's a lot of if you're spinning, you're going to get kicked in the face uncontrolled a million times.
If you go in for a double leg takedown, you might get kneed in the face.
There's a huge chance you're going to get hit or cross-faced or something like that. So these people kind of flock to these self-defense things because they think that's what's going to save them, when really they should be training some type of sport combat situation like a boxing or whatever, or practicing with a weapon or something like that.
And one of the biggest parts of that is beneficial is, which I have that I think is my biggest weakness, and I have the least amount of experiences, is getting desensitized to, experiencing some sensitivity and some pain in situations, like getting punched in the face. Knowing what that feels like, and not.
Have you never been punched in the face?
No, don't think about it.
Listen,
I don't want my first time to be you, for sure. Well, no correction. Let me correct that. I got hit in my classes I was taking during sparring, but it was sparring kind of thing, so it wasn't like full. Like it was like a bop in the nose on an accident kind of thing. So it wasn't like, I haven't really been like real punched in the face. So I think things like that, though, but like at the same time, I'm fully aware that stuff like that is in some ways good for people to experience that, because you like to know what that is like, so that when it happens, it doesn't. Because if you've never experienced that, I'm sure it would happen with me. If that happens, it would shut you down.
Well, it's the analogy that I use when I teach. I teach a quote unquote so I am a Gracie survival tactics instructor. I'm a purple belt. I train a lot. I'm decent. I'm a decent grappler. I like to, I enjoy it. It's something that's fun for me.
It's a passion of yours.
It's a passion of mine. I enjoy competing with other people. One of the things when I teach, I tell these people, I say, violence is a virus, right? It's the worst of us most of the time. I enjoy the violence. Like, it's fun to roll around and have fun with people, but violence is a virus. And what is a vaccine, right? A vaccine, and this is not even like, we're not trying to get like COVID stuff. We're not going to talk about like the kind of,
no, as a concept.
But as a concept, violence is a vaccine, right? Is a inert virus, an inactive virus that's then inserted into you. Mm-hmm. When you go to somewhere, you do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and you go at it, right, with this person that you're going to wear yourself out. You're going to get used to it. You get used to that kind of violence. I call it a violence vaccine. Once you do it, you become way more comfortable at conflict. Right. We have a famous situation between you and I, right? Remember, my name's
Billy?
My name's Billy.
Oh, yeah.
Right. There was a guy that accosted us one night after a Blockbuster run.
Of course.
Right. And to be fair, you
have to set up the scene. Back then, we were teenagers then, and that was before, like, I used to be very, very shy and very, very introverted, and that was definitely before I kind of came out of my shell. And so I was still very scared of the outside world, particularly. And, I definitely had not been desensitized to a lot of that sort of stuff, or exposed to any kind of situations that could present itself as, threatening in some way. I hadn't experienced hardly any of that kind of thing. Whereas you've been wrestling and boxing and stuff. So yeah, you've dealt with people and been in confrontations.
And I was confident, even in high
Right.
school. You know, I was a heavyweight wrestler in high school. You know, there's obviously here's a little trivia. Here's a little back notes. One of the reasons why Josh and I know each other is because I used to date one of his family members. Right?
Yes.
And so like there's a story, like your family obviously knows that, like, about how I fought a guy downtown trying to rob a woman.
Yep.
When I was in high school, I broke like all his ribs and then just left him there with some other dude. But there were a lot of men in that situation who did not act. Who this woman,
Right.
it was like the classic, like, we're all, you know, your family member wanted us to go out to a nice restaurant.
Yeah.
Because we were in high school and that's what she wanted, because that's what people do, right? They go to like really nice restaurants. So we were going to a really nice restaurant downtown, and it happened to be an event called Dine Out for AIDS. And we were in this parking area, and I would say there was 15 other men, like grown adult men, and then me, and then, you know, most of their significant others. And on this concrete stairs 10 feet away from us, there's like a homeless lady, whatever. She might have ripped him off, I don't know, for drugs or something. Like, now as I look at it as an adult,
Right.
She could have ripped him off, or like it could have been a prostitution thing gone wrong, whatever.
Yeah.
But what I watched was this other dude in like these army fatigues, this grown man, you know, in his 40s, grabbing this woman, and they're fighting over a purse. Like the classic Spider-Man scenario.
Right.
And I remember, you know, tapping your family member and then running up the stairs, and I grabbed a hold of him. And there was one other dude wearing like a Hawaiian shirt, kind of looked like a Viking, had like long blonde hair. And he came up the stairs with me, and he got the purse down as I picked him up off the ground. And instead of doing like a throw on the concrete, maybe luckily, maybe not luckily, I squeezed him perpendicular, and I had squeezed him so hard I felt his like ribs breaking. And then I dropped him. He just kind of crumpled and then like crawled away. Never called the police or anything. She went off to go do drugs or something. I don't know.
Right.
But there were a lot of grown men who saw that person in distress, and maybe as adults they were like, "Hey, that's just some homeless people stuff."
Yeah, they may have had that foresight to look back on things, but
more, it was more likely that they were not good with confrontation, and they were scared, or they weren't not comfortable with it.
That with a little bit of the bystander effect. You know, someone else will do something.
And so, like with the Billy thing, before you were like a confident, before you gained your confidence, you know, when he came up and accosted us, as soon as he shook my hand, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a base. I have like enough striking experience to get me in trouble.
Yeah.
Like I know I would not do well in a boxing match with like most people, right?
Right.
I would do better than a person that's never trained, but I would not do, like, I know where I'm at there.
Right. Right.
But the second I grabbed his hand to shake his hand, because he was like accosting us about some stuff, and it was late at night, and we were teenagers, and it was outside Blockbuster.
Yeah.
And you know, it was one of those situations where he was jacked up enough to where you're like, what is this going to turn into? So when I grabbed his hand and I squeezed it, you know, I knew that we were in grappling distance, like,
right.
And so for me, I was like,
and honestly, for me too, like, you know, I wanted to get in the car, and I'm like jiggling the handle, and it's locked. And so I'm like, oh, I can't get in the car. But then I saw him go to reach your hand, and I honestly, from my end, like when I saw you grab his hand, and I kind of saw how you did it, and like you kind of had him, it honestly made me relieved a little bit, because I was like, oh, he's got a hold of him now. And like I've seen what you could do and stuff with the wrestling thing. So I mean, yeah, at that point I kind of like wasn't as stressed about it.
Yeah, and especially in high school, I was stronger than most grown men, regardless. You know, like, because I mean, it was one of those things. It's that pathway when you're 270 pounds in high school, and all you're doing is lifting weights and training all the time. Yeah, you know, that's similar, like, you know, the high school and college sports, you know, that go on in the United States of America. Like, it's taken very seriously. Right. So as a strong guy, as soon as I grabbed a hold of him, I was like, okay, well now we're in. If
he does anything,
now we're in my world. Now we're here. You know, and you know what? Maybe he was the best wrestler in the world, and I just didn't know it. But he wasn't Dan Gable or Cael Sanderson, so I don't know. But you know, it was one of those situations where when you have enough violence, like controlled violence, you take an inert, violent situation, and you take that and you get used to it. You become more numb to it, and it makes. If you actually, you know, if somebody was to shove me in the middle of like a store, I would not have an adrenaline dump for it. Right. Because it's a very minor thing to me.
Right.
right? Or if somebody hit me, I'm used to getting, rolling with this the quote unquote spazzy white belt. We've all been there. If you're a Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner, where you're rolling with, or you are the spazzy white belt who's just flailing because the other person's technique is so good, you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And you take a knee or you take an elbow or whatever. I come home with bruises all the time on my arms. I just check my arms now.
Yeah.
Because I get pinched all the time by like white belts because they don't know how to grab the gi correctly.
Right.
And if you're one of those people and you're not confident, like you're lacking in confidence, rather than like trying, because you can't escape, like violence has been around for so long, right? Violence is the mother tongue that people have to know how to speak, right? I wrote an entire poem about it, right?
Right.
Violence is this thing that exists, right? I remember when I went to a college wrestling camp, and this is not to get religious or anything, but he would say, God loves wrestling. God loves it because he made all because everything you do, it just seems like the body is meant for it.
Right.
Right. Does that make sense? Like when you grab a hold and like the way that that's why your hand just fits perfectly here and does all this and does all that, and he was just a wrestling coach. He wasn't even trying to be religious. He was just trying to say like how important it is and how like there's this thing that kind of binds us with that kind of thing. And, it is true. Like, it's there. And unfortunately though, and I tell this when I teach people, in like the few classes that I teach, is like, there are some times where like, especially you go to the historical archives, aka World Star Hip Hop or whatever, and you go there and you'll see things as a trained person. You're like, oh, that's silly. Yeah. Like you shouldn't do that. There must have been somebody on Noah's Ark or whatever was out there, right? That had bad grappling genes, because it seems that most of us have it, and you have to break that habit. Because a lot of times if you think you're going to act, you probably do something so silly that you're both going to wind up on the ground. Yeah. And there's
a good chance.
It's not fun.
And that's one of the things to, bounce off of that too, that, most people lead a pretty, nonviolent life, but there's a good chance, at least at some point, once in your life, no matter who you are, at some point, you're going to probably, be confronted with some type of situation like that, whether it be, somebody accosting you or whatever. Like, most people you talk to, they could at least name one instance where they were in some scary situation like that,
or someone accosting someone else, just like my thing, just like my thing on the Dine Out for AIDS night. I saw that, but you could also be the person who's used to violence, right? And somebody's screaming at the poor 16-year-old clerk at Starbucks, and you can be like, hey buddy,
we don't need that.
She's 16. She might have to go poop, right? Yeah. Maybe that's why she screwed up your order, because she's got to poop herself. Yeah. Right.
She did it too fast.
She did it too fast.
That's actually a good de-escalation take. I'm just going to start using that for anything.
It's kind of like picturing everybody naked in the crowd, like everybody like, oh man, everybody here is about to poop.
I actually thought that earlier when you were telling me about the road rage thing. That's what I was relating it to in my head. Yeah. That's funny.
So you could be the voice of reason in something. Now, like, I wouldn't advocate like, hey, somebody comes in with a gun or a knife, like, I'm going to run at them and try to grapple them. That's just not smart. That's not going to work out. But some people live a life where they don't care about that kind of thing. And if you have to help somebody else out, if you have to help out one of your family members, if you need to help yourself out, you should be physically capable, maybe not even physically capable. You should have some sensible sense of like what you would do in that situation. You know? Like I hear, especially like, cause self-defense stuff is often targeted towards women. Right. Like the women's self-defense scene is like an easy money-making scheme. Very much so. Right. You see that with the Detroit Urban Survival Tactics. Yeah. I've heard women who train and they're like, you know what? Sometimes I still walk with like my key in my hand, even though it probably would break, like it would cut into my own hand just as much or whatever. Or they would throw the punch wrong or do whatever, and you know what? Maybe they stabbed the dude in the eye and he's fine. But the fact that they went to like a 12-hour thing, and a lot of times they're like, you've got this self-defense training, right? Or this 3-hour.
Here's your certificate.
Here's your certificate.
Now you're ready to brave the streets.
Right. Stomp the toe, turn inside, hit him with the purse, right? Bobby Hill, that's my purse.
I don't know you.
I don't know you, right? those kind of like they're silly and they're taught, and there's always somebody, and there's always some grandiose person who knows, who's all knowing.
Yeah.
And they teach you these things like they're an absolute. And that's one of the things I like about grappling, right? Is because not everything works for everybody's body type. Not everything works for everybody, period.
Yeah.
Not everything works on everybody, period.
That's what I'm saying.
So,
if you're a small person, you know, things like striking, like punching or kicking somebody, you do have to have either some amount of strength or weight behind those things to really accomplish much of a result. Whereas with something like grappling or whatever, that a lot of that necessity goes away.
yeah. So for grappling, it was always, you know, as a heavyweight wrestler, right? My high school wrestling coach, or now as an adult BJJ practitioner, my black belt professor, or even my brown belt coach, they will help me figure out what to do based on how big my arms are, or how big my thighs are, or whatever.
Yeah.
To help out, so that way I can do a move or a variation, like I can tweak it to match me. And I think if you're out there, you can do the same thing if you go train somewhere, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that's going to make the biggest difference is to get the training. Again, one, 3-hour class that you take at some school somewhere, it's
at the Dollar General.
I mean, there may be some useful information in those things, I'm sure, but any amount of information you intake without practice and training isn't going to do you any good.
Yeah, it's null and void.
Until you, I mean, as, Bruce Lee once said, I don't fear the man who's practiced 10,000 kicks once. I fear the man who's practiced one kick 10,000 times. That you have to train to where stuff becomes muscle memory, to where you're not even thinking about it, that something happens to you and your body just responds.
Are there even 10,000 kicks?
I'm sure there are.
That'd be wild.
Yeah.
That you would technically have practiced kicking 10,000 times. So there's still that.
It's a metaphor.
I understand. But yeah, so another thing is pressure testing. Pressure testing is important. That's one thing you get from like different martial arts, especially wrestling, whatever, where you're putting these positions that you learn about, and then you go hard from that position after you've drilled those specific moves. It's called specific training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You're put into that position. You do when you're put into a pressure test, you really have to use the stuff, and you really see how it works and how it doesn't work.
Right.
And then you also learn like just scrambling, just rolling around with somebody. Most people don't do it after they're kids. They fight with their brother or sister or whatever.
Wrestle around a little bit, yeah.
Or their parents or whatever. That's, my dad used to wrestle with me, kicked me in the face a couple times on accident. Maybe that's why I am like I am, but he probably gave me my first concussion for all I know. But
right.
It's one of those things where once you do that, once you do the pressure testing, become more confident, and then you're going to be, you're going to do a lot better. And, martial arts is martial. Like you have to be ready to hurt somebody if you're in an actual confrontation, Yeah. Because they're going to hurt you. If you're in a confrontation and you're a normal person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have no way of avoiding it. There was a woman the other day who was in like a gym, and there's just surveillance camera. And
that dude coming in after her? Yeah, I saw that.
There's just some whack dudes out there, right?
Yeah.
And she's just working out. She's done nothing wrong. She's done nothing to put her in that situation.
Yeah.
She's just there, but she has no way of escaping it without violence. And luckily she was more violent than that guy was ready to handle.
Yeah.
And that's what it took.
This guy basically came in and tried to take advantage of her when she was working out.
She was working like a 24-hour fitness, and she was there by herself.
It was like late at night. She was the only one there. And thankfully she put up a fight and she was able to get away.
She opened the door because she let him in because it was like, she thought he was a member or something like that. And he starts following her around, and then he comes after her and she fights him off. She does a great job.
Yeah.
But I would have loved to see her strangle him unconscious instead. Right. And
his body just be there unconscious when the police arrive.
It would have been great if it was like Fionn Davies or something like that. She's a ADCC world champion. She's a Welsh BJJ practitioner.
Oh, wow, right. That would have went a different way.
Yeah. Like the first unknown woman, she did a great job. I would love for like Fionn Davies to I would have loved to watch that and then her strangle that guy, then put him in like a Neon Belly or something like that and hold until the cops got there. And there's a lot of those situations too you can find. There's a guy, There's several of those videos, especially in Brazil, where like you're more likely to find a Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner in Brazil because
that makes sense.
There's a bunch of them there, and so there's always like those dudes in street fights where they've got them like strangled a robber or something to that effect.
Right.
The moral of the story is martial arts are cool.
Yes,
we like them, and they're practical in real life.
And I would encourage anybody, and it's something again I've just quit practicing currently just because I just physically don't have the time at the moment. I got a lot on my plate that I'm trying to figure out. So eventually I'd like to get back into it, of course, and I might end up, coming to your school to check that out. I've been wanting to do that for a while. Which
is funny. Everybody's like, why doesn't John just train him then? Because you teach other classes. I was just thinking, I was like, I could teach you stuff too, I guess.
I mean, true. we may discuss that. But I would still encourage anybody who is at all interested, or even if you're not interested, to go train somewhere, to practice, especially some BJJ or something, because in addition to that, like, work out, like, do what you can to keep yourself healthy.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it is staying healthy, because if you're not healthy, even if you have a lot of techniques, if you were to go to implement them in a fight, you don't want to have a heart attack in the middle of it.
No.
And get destroyed. So, work out, stay healthy, and do what you can to, I'll kind of quote one of my someone I follow online, Pat McNamara. He's got some good stuff online. A former Delta Force operator. That one of his big things he talks about in his combat strength training stuff is, you need to be in good enough shape that you could save yourself or somebody else.
Yeah,
and to never relinquish the opportunity to be Batman. As far as being prepared in your skills and stuff, that if, you need to be strong enough to, if you had to pick somebody up and carry them or, pull them up a wall or something, you need to be able to do that.
Yeah. Cause it's no, if men, women alike, right? Like there's nothing like we live in this society. We live in a great society. The United States of America is a society where we really don't have to deal with a lot of outside stressors, right? There's no bandits on the road robbing us as we're traveling from town to town. There's no dragons, there's no giant packs of roving wolves, there's no like short-faced bears or whatever out there,
right? But
with that said, there is something into being like, you are your own first responder, right?
Yes.
There's when seconds matter, police are just a few minutes away.
Exactly.
That's a saying, right?
Yeah.
When seconds matter, police are just a few minutes away. So you don't always have the luxury of waiting on somebody else to help you out.
You may see, a wrecked car off the side of the road that's on fire and there's somebody unconscious in it. You need to be able to, if you might be the only person around for miles, and if, you're able to, open the door up and drag their body out of the car, you need to be able to do that, to be able to grab them and drag them up the hill away from the car.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
Or if they're drowning,
Yeah. Just being a good citizen where we help each other. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is we are such, in our society, everything's so good that we go to war with ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's one of the issues that we have. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think that's one of the issues that we have is that everything is so nice and so good here that we go to war with ourselves and we find the littlest things to fight over each other. But really everybody just has to poop their pants. Right. So there's really not that much difference between us because all of us have the same thing. None of us just poop our pants and say, I'll just wait till later. We're all just like, no, I got to get to a bathroom. Get out of my way. Right. Now. So just make sure that when you guys are out here, right. We've talked about this a couple times and I never really thought this would be like what the things I would talk about on a podcast, but like we still live, like everybody's still your neighbor,
Yeah.
Like, if you live in the United States of America, you live in Great Britain, you live in Canada, right? You guys are all part of the same community.
Yeah.
Right? Help each other out. When somebody needs help, when somebody's pulling on the lady's purse, even if you don't want to run up there, even if you know that you can't fight somebody, if 30 people yell at this guy, and everybody says they're going to call the cops, and it's just not one or two people, right? There's strength in numbers for that.
Oh, for sure.
And so keep that going. There's strength in numbers for martial arts. When you get people that are good and go into somewhere that, whether it's karate or taekwondo, Muay Thai, kickboxing, whatever.
Yeah.
There's nothing more empowering than empowering yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
That's one of the things, my time that I had in training, that's one of my favorite things about it is you go into this place and you're in a building with all people who are all trying to better themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You're all helping each other, all bettering each other.
Yeah.
And it's this, congruent family of people who are all striving to just be better humans.
And unless there's somebody that crashes through the door, you really don't think about anything outside of it because you're so focused on this one task, which is getting better, which is also a thing. I know we're wrapping up here, but it's like the other day I was looking. There's something called the modern knight. It seems like it's very male centric, right? It's very male centric, and it's like former SEAL guy and then like a Marine guy, and they're running them through like a SEAL basic training thing for like 72 hours. And it seems to be like a lot of men who are like, you have to be rich because it's $18,000 to go to it.
Jeez.
Right. But they're treating them and they're yelling at them and they're hosing them down and doing all this stuff because these men don't feel. And I was looking at their website because it would just interest me. I was like, why are these people going to it? And they had like these catchphrases like, be the man that you want your daughter to marry. Be the man that your son should be. These very inflammatory things.
Trying to pull on
people
heartstrings
who are not there. When really, like, there's a sense, like, it was 72 hours. These guys went through it. They got treated like crap, and then they left. And there's a million people that have gone through BUDS as Navy SEALs and got washed out. Entire classes have been washed out.
Oh, yeah.
And they've gone through that thing, and it doesn't mean they're a good person. You know what I'm saying? When they get out. So these people could have also just found a community or a family. That's another thing with martial arts. When you find people and you get on a team, sometimes it doesn't matter about who the toughest person in the gym is. Yeah. Right? That's the way my gym is. When you go to the gym, it shouldn't be about who, like, oh, everybody's got to stay away from so-and-so because he's the bad boy. Like, he's the teacher's pet. Like, he'll beat everybody up. We just all bow down to him. You guys are all part of the same team. It's a family. You guys should be part of a family. And it's a fun place. If you're looking for a place to meet adult friends, or to learn something, or just get some like outside social stuff, there's nothing better.
Or a great thing to put your kids in when they're young.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's one of, like, I don't have any kids, but I've always told myself if at some point I end up having kids, like, they are for sure going to take martial arts from a young age.
Yeah. Well, my kid, I want to get him in there, but my kid's a little different, with all of his health issues, but it is definitely on my to-do list once he's able to actually do it.
Yeah.
And, I'll end it with this. There's the greatest wrestler of all time in the United States of America. His name was Dan Gable, right? He lost one match in college, and he's kind of the GOAT. Like, there's some guys that probably could beat him now or whatever, but he's a college wrestling coach, and he was one of the best wrestlers of all time. I think he went to the Olympics. I can't remember how he did, though. He has a saying, it's once you wrestle, everything else in life is easy. And so I agree with that. I think there's a lot of things, like there's nothing worse than running sprints and doing all these things like when you're a high school wrestler. But yeah, when you look back on that, you're like, oh, because of that, because I accomplished that, I could do this. And I saw those guys, I saw what they were going through, and it seems like they just needed some type of, like, in the United States of America, I think for men and women both, the lack of the rite of passage. There's no rite of passage for us to become adults. You see that all the time in the memes where people are like, I'm adulting, blah, 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 blah. And they make this cute. But realistically, it is a scary thing that we don't know what we're doing. And the fact that there is no rite of passage that brings us on and takes us to the next level, right, where we feel comfortable and welcomed, right, by our elders and the other people of our tribe.
You're qualified to be an adult now.
Exactly.
You've done this thing.
But at least with some of this stuff, like martial arts and that kind of thing, you get that kind of progression that you need. You get that kind of thing. And it's another place where you meet people who have different, like, if I need a lawyer, I roll with lawyers. If I need a real estate agent, I roll with real estate agents.
Yeah, there's no telling who you could meet.
I roll insurance people. I've got insurance people. That's all that stuff is there. Yeah. So we like martial arts. We geek out about martial arts.
We do like martial arts.
Giancarlo Bodoni, great seminar, awesome time. And
you know who else would like martial arts probably?
Well, I to be honest with you, Josh, I think we're going to have to make it mandatory. So, because our crew members need to be versed in all forms of martial arts.
Yes. Because
we don't know what they're going to face out there in the black.
There's no telling. There's all sorts of abominations.
It could even be one of you wily stowaways that just hops on board for as little as $12 a year. That's $1 a month.
$1 a month.
$1 a month to help keep the ship running. And
that's like 4 quarters.
Well, yeah, or 10 dimes.
Or 10. You're right. Yeah. Point being, it's not a lot.
Or like one Well, how many Dogecoin is that?
It depends on what the inflation's done to it.
I guess so. But hey, so if you guys should join the crew, we really want to have you as members of our crew. Help us keep putting out content. We're enjoying doing this podcast. It costs us money to do it.
Yes.
You guys might say, hey, stop doing it all together, but we're not going to. We're going to be here. We're going to keep recording. We're going to keep putting out episodes every Wednesday. And we really want you guys to be part of it, because just like my jiu-jitsu family is my community, you guys can also be part of that same community. And, we're here. We want to hear from you. Our DMs are open. Send us a message. Send us an email. Send us a message on our Instagram at Geek ETC Podcast, on Twitter at Geek ETC Podcast. Yeah. Watch our videos, leave comments on our YouTube at
Geek ETC Podcast. Yeah, you can listen to the podcast there, and leave comments down below. Have some discussions about what we're talking about. Maybe you could make some friends through there. Who knows? If there's anything that we did talk about, most of the things we talk about that seem of importance, you can go on the website geeketcpod.com, and below every episode we have show notes that I curate and put on there that will link to oftentimes Wikipedia articles or something that can describe and let you know what it is we're talking about.
Absolutely. And like I say, geeks fight better together, and
especially towards adversarial events that happen in life.
Exactly. And if you guys have all been trained, we'll fight even harder. So
yes, we will. So remember, whatever you do in life, whether it be training jiu-jitsu, karate, whatever, just remember to keep geeking out.
All right, Josh, let's go punch you in the face now.
Okay.